Hello, and welcome to the Ontic Connected Intelligence Podcast. I'm Manish, Ontic's Chief Innovation Officer. Join us as we delve into valuable insights and practical advice that will empower you to navigate the complexities of modern corporate security and risk. We're here to share knowledge from experienced leaders and innovators in the field. All right, get settled, and let's dive in. Patrick Weinland leads global safety and security at Block as their Chief Security Officer, overseeing everything from security operations and GSOC technology to EHS and strategic security programs. Patrick's team is responsible for protecting employees, supporting crisis response, and mitigating risk across Block's global security footprint. Over the past decade, he's grown from frontline security roles into senior leadership, building and scaling corporate security programs along the way. Zach Meyer is a security and intelligence leader whose career has bridged military service, corporate security operations, and threat intelligence. Zach spent 4 years serving in the Army's bomb squad before transitioning into the civilian security field in 2019. Since then, he has supervised and managed GSOC operations across several organizations, including Block and Assuria, where he's led the company's GSOC in Nashville. Today, he's back at Block, leading intelligence and threats for the GSOC. Gentlemen, welcome to the Connected Intelligence Podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Patrick, let's start with you. And I think we may have done you a disservice on your background and your experience, both at Square and Block. So perhaps let's start by telling the audience a little bit more about your background. And we're going to focus a bit on the GSOC today. And one tee up is a lot of people that we speak to think about GSOCs mostly at monitoring centers. And your career has probably shaped your thinking around that. So love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, just going back to my career, I've been in the security industry for 15 plus years and been able to work in pretty much every single different role, which includes going back to working in the GSOC and when our GSOC first came about. So I was able to see basically what we've done from the beginning to where we're at now, and seen so many different iterations through the size of the company, how we've grown with it through COVID, back to where we're at now, being mostly a distributed workforce while still having offices, and just so many different types scenarios. Even though it's been mainly with one business, it's felt like 5-10 different businesses. So it's been a great experience to see all the different changes there. I think even going back from the beginning, when we first started the first iteration of our GSOC, we were more than a monitoring center. So it's always felt like a little bit more than that. Of course, it's one thing that we do is we're monitoring for all different types of events, from somebody being stuck with a badge to worldwide events. But our team's always had from the beginning until now, just a very good standing and asked to do a lot with the company. And so we've tried to do more than just monitor and try and be available, try and be proactive, and just try and jump in there and do everything that we can, asked or not. And I think that's shaped our GSOC through the years and helped us to be able to continue and just have the team and the kind of like the focus of the GSOC is always been there with leadership we've gone through many different leadership roles within the company, of course, through all that time. And it's always been a priority to keep our GSOC. It's always been a great focus, which I think says a lot, because in many, many cases, security can kind of get put on the back burner, but we've always had a pretty good standing and people have counted on us. And so we've tried to uphold that.
Wonderful. And Patrick, no doubt you have seen a lot of change. Zach, we'll turn it over to you. You have a remarkable career as well. Maybe tell our audience a bit about your most recent boomerang journey back to Block. How did that go?
Yeah, so it was kind of funny. Patrick had posted on his LinkedIn this position, and I had actually reached out to one of my coworkers and told him that he could be a good fit for it. And so I had messaged Patrick about it. I told him, hey, I got a guy might be a good fit. And so me and Patrick kind of started talking a little bit. And then at some point, he kind of like, probably at first jokingly, was like, well, why don't you just be our Intel guy? And I was like, well, let me look into it. And so I kind of looked into it, and we chatted some more, and kind of went back and forth a little bit. And I can, talk to my wife, and talk to some people at work, and figure that it would be a cool, kind of next step, to kind of almost specialize in something, because I've been a very kind of generic GSOC leader, and I've always done intelligence within the GSOC, but this was an interesting step to kind of specialize in that intelligence role, and kind of train the GSOC up. Because, like Patrick said, we've iterated at Block so many times. As the needs of the business evolve, the GSOC then evolves. And one of the the needs of the business now is to kind of have this nucleus of intelligence that is getting kind of spread throughout the rest of the team, and that kind of starts with kickstarting this Intel program. And so it was a very interesting offer, and very glad I'm back. The team at Block is very close. Everyone's super close with each other, and even though the majority of us are remote, everyone's very close. I've only been here a few months now, and I've already hung out with teams in person twice, and we hop on calls all the time, and everyone's very involved in everyone else's kind of personal, career trajectory, and everyone's very supportive. So I'm very happy to be back on the Block team. When I was very first at Block, I was a contractor, and working alongside the person who was in charge of the GSOC, and then kind of morphed into being a GSOC leader from that contractor role. And so I've kind of been all over the GSOC space, from the very beginning, as they kind of built like the 2.0 version of the GSOC, because Patrick and the rest of the team built like version 1, just a couple of guys, with laptops trying to figure out how to evolve. And so, myself and Brian, the GSOC leader at the time, kind of built it out. And then right as it was kind of getting going is when I left, which kind of sucked. And so it's cool to come back to see how it's evolved over the last 2 years, to see how it's servicing the business now. And it's cool to be a part of it.
Love that story. Patrick, you have a massive remit, obviously, given the size and scope of your role. And we talk to so many companies who still struggle with silos and organizational disconnects that often happen. And I think you have a very deeply held belief on ensuring that teams are connected and collaborate more effectively. What have you learned in that process, and why do you hold those beliefs? Hey everyone, Manish here. This is a great discussion. Check out similar topics in other episodes linked below. Feel free to explore additional resources and share your thoughts. Now, let's get back to the conversation. Patrick, you have a difficult job, and many of your peers also have a difficult job in measuring ROI and impact. There's the traditional vanity metrics, we'll call them, and then there's metrics of real value. And we all know, and it's been well documented, the challenges you guys have faced just in managing cost and personnel, and you've gone through lots of change. Yet it's somehow you've been able to retain and continue to carry out your mission. So how do you communicate value? And maybe just share with the audience some of those experiences that you've had along the way.
Yeah, I think there's very specific ways to communicate value. At certain times with leadership, numbers, data, all those different things, and in a way that's almost comes secondary to just like representing the value through time, through building that trust, through different events, not like a specific call, on the value of something, but just on history. And I think that goes back and again speaks volumes to the team that we've had here through many different leadership roles and many different analysts, many different parts of the team. They've always upheld the reputation within the company that this team is needed, this team does a great job, this team should be there, without again getting into too specific data. So I think that's really one of the most important things, just carrying that over through so many different years and changes. And then of course, getting into the data and just showing what we're doing. It's been so much more like that in the last few years, and kind of a task at times. Like, we need to get this and this and this to show this, but in the end, like we're right now, and I've evolved into something where I love it. I want to see more and more data, and to present to leadership and just to have for our own, because it really shows what you're doing. And I think all the way down to like a junior analyst level, sometimes things might seem a little bit like unnecessary, extra work just to put in to get this data, but try and turn it around and have them look at their own data, so that at the end of the week, into the month, they can look at their own and just see like what they did. They know what they're doing, but they don't always look at it on paper and metrics that we do in leadership. And so I've tried to turn it around and have them look at it so they can just feel good at the end of the month and really, just see a whole screen, a whole dashboard of what they did. And I think that makes them feel really good, makes them, feel valued, to know that they're doing that. Leadership knows that, and it just kind of goes up the chain from there. So as we've gotten more and more into the data and the metrics, it's been a really, really great, interesting thing that I think pays off in every aspect.
Without giving away anything confidential, can you give the audience an example? And it could be a micro piece of data. It may not even be that impactful, but just to give the audience an example of some of the data sets that you try to capture.
Yeah, and just going into like smaller things that might not be noticeable is, we're pretty Slack heavy in different areas. And so just looking back on like response metrics for like one person for a week or a month, something that might not be noticed if you just go on by day, but if you look at the end of the month on like how many responses this person made to either an office channel or to individuals, and then you wrap up that data after a few weeks or a few months, and it really shows that impact. Like, this one analyst responded to this many employees, and just DMs were areas that leadership's not seeing it. Nobody else is seeing this directly, so it's kind of hidden. But if you look at it in a wider scope, it's like this one analyst, impacted 30 employees over the last month in a great way of just, and it's small things. It's like, but it's speeding up that employee's day, getting them into the office a little bit quicker because they forgot their badge, making sure they knew this versus that. And it just helps those employees in little ways, but it adds up. And it goes back to the reputation of the company. It makes that employee have a better day so they can do what they need to do to produce for the business. And those are there's so many different little things that have always been done, but have not been captured and really shown through like our new metrics. And that's like the area where I get back into like really, really happy to see that and want to show that back to everybody, because it's great. And it's nothing new. We've been doing this for so many years, but it's new in a way of where we're able to see it better now.
Perfect. Zach, we'd be remiss not to talk about AI. So love to hear your thoughts on how you guys are leveraging AI, but I even want you to be opinionated. So maybe dial the clock forward after you answer the first question, dial the clock forward a couple of years from now. What is the impact on GSOCs in particular with AI?
Yeah, AI is taking over when it comes to speed and delivery. That's kind of one of its strengths is how fast it can get you information. And so now these companies that you're paying to give you information should kind of light a fire under their butt a little bit, because you just myself and an AI agent can accomplish so much when it comes to capturing intelligence. At first you have to worry a little bit about the reliability of it, and that's what you're paying a lot of these companies for, is that kind of reliable source. Maybe they're not sending it to you until they have 2 verified sources, and so that's how you can capture the reliability. Or they're gathering, there's some of these tools do a lot of keyword searches. And so you're kind of shotgun blasting you with information about these keywords. And you can accomplish that same thing with, an AI agent, like a Claude Cowork automation that you set up. And then every day you can iterate on it and get it better and better and better specifically for your company. And so it's interesting to kind of see this shift of reliance on paying these companies a lot of money to get you this information, and then also to show it to you in a way that's palatable, that's, like Patrick talked about, that you can glean metrics from, you can show trends, stuff like that. You can do all that now. Patrick has built this kind of dashboard that does a lot of what other tools that you would normally pay for do. And so now you can kind of start asking these questions about, do we need to pay for this tool when we can use AI to capture all this information and then show it in a way that's helpful for the GSOC, that's helpful for the leadership team. And so, yeah, AI is kind of it's keeping people on their toes a little bit, and I hope that companies are adjusting to that accordingly and asking themselves, how can we use AI better to make sure we're staying ahead of what these companies can just do themselves? And so, yeah, that's kind of one way that we're using it now, is to kind of capture information and show it in a helpful way. But I think, if you fast forward 5 years, it's interesting to think about how people are going to, I have an idea that these companies, and there's a collective kind of sentiment around like anti-AI stuff. And one of them is around that reliability, and that, oh, is it just hallucinating, telling you that there's a shooting across the street from your office, or is there actually a shooting across the street from your office, and what source was that? And so it's kind of, I think in 5 years that I hope that it's more reliable, and it can, show you the sources right alongside, just in the text, like, hey, here's a tweet, and you can click on the tweet, and it kind of like leans into the reliability aspect because it's already proven the speed and, the how much it can churn through, how quickly. And so, yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of these companies that are going to fall to the wayside because companies like us, like Block, are realizing that we can do some of this stuff internally and not have to pay these companies money. So I think we're going to see less of these providers, and possibly more internally built tools that are doing the same thing as these providers are providing.
Gentlemen, great conversation today. We're almost up against our time. We have 2 more questions for each of you. They're relatively quick. So first one is, and Zach, we'll start with you. Or actually, let's Patrick start with you, then we'll go Zach, and then we'll go Zach and Patrick to round us out. So Patrick, first for you, how would you describe a modern GSOC in just one simple sentence?
Yeah, to me, to our modern GSOC, I think it's just like everything 24/7. That's what I was thinking about, is just taking it all in, always being available, and no matter what the issue or the problem is, because of like just being one of the few, if not the only teams that are online 24/7, and trying to show that value and that need, and just taking that's at least how I think, and what I want to do is we'll take anything on, anything. It might not last, might need to change, but I'm not afraid to just take it on and say, like, we'll look at it and we'll do it, and we'll respond to it, and we'll go from there. And I think that just shows that shows your value. And then I think most things do stick and are counted on, and we continue with it.
Zach, same question for you.
Yeah, I think a couple of words. I'll keep on theme of just a couple word sentence, but speed and reliability. So I think that, speed is very important right now when it comes to getting information out, as we're receiving information, making sure it gets out just as fast. And reliability is key because, these core members that are relying on Patrick to safeguard employees in offices, the GSOC has to be the core of that reliability. You have to know that if I call the GSOC or message to GSOC, they're going to be there, they're going to respond to me. And I think that's super important to maintain for sure.
Excellent. Our final question, as is tradition on this podcast, we ask, what does connected intelligence mean to you? So Zach, we'll start with you. Just short and simple, and then Patrick will end with you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have this information share across organizations, across different people. There's a couple times in the past where I've relied on anecdotal evidence being more important than, say, a review on LinkedIn or something. You could find a company that provides a service. How do you really know that they're providing that service to the extent that they're saying they are going to? And I think anecdotal evidence from maybe past coworkers or a company that you trust that its employees are talking and stuff like that. And so you have a platform like Connected Intelligence is important because you can really see what other people think about tools and AI and how they're doing things like Patrick was talking about with, metrics and stuff like that. It's like, getting ideas from other people. I think it's really important to have this information share, this broad information share. I think it's really important right now.
Patrick?
Yeah. Thinking about Connected Intelligence, when I think about it just within our team specifically, it just means that everybody is on the same page and connected where they need to be, all the way down to the GSOC analysts need to be connected in the appropriate areas to the SecOps in all regions, to EHS, to these areas, because they're going to get something that comes in and they need to be prepared for it and to know and to be connected, not have a silo here where if we get a medical, they need to know on this side exactly what to do, what to respond, so that it trickles back to SecOps, to EHS, to strategic programs if it involves somebody in those areas. And so I think about it just being connected within the team, going back to the theme about no silos. And if you have a team of Connected Intelligence, you're going to operate smoothly, in my opinion.
My guests today, Patrick and Zach from Block. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening in. To find more episodes, visit us at ontic.co/podcasts. Don't forget to rate and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice. Plus, we'll be selecting reviews to read on the show, so leave one, and you might hear yours featured in an upcoming episode. Know someone who would be a great podcast guest or have questions you'd like us to answer? Email us at podcast@ontic.co. This episode was produced by AJ McKeon. We'll talk to you next time on the Ontic Connected Intelligence Podcast.